Hello, heathens, heretics, and fellow sane people. This is Secular Strike Back, and I'm your host, Toothless Grin Kim. Here today to finally smash some sacred cows, and I'm not talking about Hindu deities. I'm talking about the ridiculous labels the faithful slap on us, the non-believers. If you're anything like me, an atheist, an ex-Christian, a skeptic, or maybe just someone who prefers reality to ancient desert mythology, you know that moment you drop the A-bomb, atheist, that is. Suddenly you are boxed, labeled, and placed squarely into a derogatory category constructed by people who fundamentally misunderstand the basic concept of non-belief. They think we're all the same. They think atheist means immoral, baby-eating, hateful grump who just wants to sin. I'm here today to say, stop the presses. We are complex individuals. We are layered like a delicious dogma-free onion. So what defines you? Are you a Christian? A Muslim? A Jew? Or are you an atheist, an ex-Christian, an anti-theist, a skeptic, or what some like to call an agnostic, a secular humanist, a realist? I know many of you in the community know these terms, but let's be real, a lot of the religious folks and even some new atheists get them completely muddled. Today, we are going to define these terms, clarify the layers of identity complexity, and I'm going to reveal my own glorious, multifaceted secular identity. And trust me, it's a lot more than just not believing in a sky daddy. Stay tuned, because we are stripping the ignorance away and giving the stereotypes a good, hard kicking. Let's start with the one they all focus on, the term that sends shivers down the spine of the faithful, atheist. As you all know, an atheist is simply someone who does not believe a God exists. Notice the language I used, does not believe. We need to focus on two crucial words, don't believe. So atheism is a lack of a belief. It is not a belief in itself. It is not a religion. It is not an emotion. It is the answer no to the question, do you believe in a God? It's the default position. Believers are the ones making the positive assertion, the claim that something exists out there. We, the atheists, are simply unimpressed by their claims of the existence of a God. Theists often try to argue that atheism is a belief system. That's like saying not collecting stamps is a hobby. It's absurd. It's a fundamental misunderstanding, often willful, designed to put us on the same footing as them so they can argue equally ridiculous claims. Now, this is where we bring in those pesky modifiers, agnostic and skeptic, whichever one you prefer to call yourself, agnostic, skeptic, it's the same thing. A lot of Christians and even some atheists think being an agnostic is a middle ground, like a spiritual Switzerland, but it's not. Agnosticism deals with knowledge. The G for Gnosticism, knowledge. An agnostic says, I don't know if a God exists or not. Atheism, a non-belief, an atheist says, I don't believe a God exists. The vast majority of atheists are agnostic atheists. Agnostics don't claim absolute 100% certainty that no God could possibly exist. That's Gnostic atheism, which is a very high bar to clear. Agnostics simply acknowledge that they don't know for certain, but based on zero evidence, they certainly don't believe it. Until evidence is presented, the scale remains firmly weighted toward non-belief. So whether you choose to call yourself an agnostic atheist or a skeptic, whichever one you refer to yourself as, which focuses on using critical thinking and doubt to evaluate claims, it's all rooted in the same lack of credence for supernatural claims. You are not saying, I know for sure there's no God. You're saying, I don't believe you. Show me the receipts. And until these receipts arrive, we are comfortable in our non-belief. Now, let's talk about the layers of identity that many of us proudly wear, starting with the glorious shedding of the skin. The exchristian. So, like I mentioned, next on the list is the exchristian. It's exactly what it sounds like. You used to be a Christian. You believed the ancient myths. You recited the dogma. Maybe you even spoke in tongues or participated in those awkward church skits. And then you woke up. You deconstructed. You left. That's it. That's the definition. An ex-Christian used to be a Christian. Now, most ex-Christians, and this is why we are such a powerful part of the secular movement, are now atheists. We saw the sausage being made, and we said, no thank you, I prefer facts. However, and this is the sad but true part, some people leave Christianity and go straight into another religious absurdity. They trade one delusion for another. Maybe they go for Buddhism, Hinduism, or whatever flavor of spirituality sounds slightly less abusive than the one they left. They swap out Jesus for crystals. They've traded the divine carpenter for some other metaphysical nonsense. We wave sadly as they go, but fundamentally, they still qualify as an ex-Christian, even if they haven't embraced full reality yet. Now, this is my favorite term because it carries a little aggressive punch. So say it with me. Anti-Theist. If atheism is a lack of belief, anti-theism is an active opposition to religion, that of theism. An anti-theist is fundamentally against all religion and the belief in gods because we feel, rightly so, that religion is detrimental to society. We aren't just sitting quietly in the corner minding our own business. We are standing up and pointing out that religion is damaging. It harms people. It harms children. It stifles scientific progress. It fuels political tribalism. And it actively promotes ignorance and intolerance globally. The world would demonstrably and objectively be a better, safer, and more rational place if there were no religion in it. Theists often try to conflate atheism with anti-theism. They say, you only argue because you hate God. No, honey, I argue because I hate the harm your ridiculous system causes, and I hate the political power it wields. I am vehemently against the destructive power of dogma. That makes me an anti-theist. Now, let's tackle the biggest stereotype they throw at us. That without God, we lack morals, purpose, and meaning. We need a positive ethical framework. If someone tells you an atheist is immoral, ask them if they have ever met a secular humanist. Because this is the framework that defines how we live ethically and meaningfully without relying on sky fairies, dogma, or ancient commandments carved in rocks. A secular humanist embraces a philosophy that uses reason, ethics, and empathy to live a meaningful life. We don't need the threat of eternal torture or the promise of heavenly rewards to be good people. We are driven by science, logic, and a deep-seated desire for social justice and human well-being. Secular humanists believe that humans are capable of creating our own meaning. We are responsible for our own destinies. Our moral compass is calibrated not by a dusty book, but by evidence and the measurable impact of our actions on other sentient beings. We focus on scientific inquiry, social justice, and the well-being of humanity. It's what drives me to want to tear down those damaging superstitions. So finally, the next term I want to discuss, let's talk about the simplest term, which is perhaps the most powerful, the realist. A realist is a person who accepts a situation as it is and is prepared to deal with it accordingly. When it comes to the supernatural, being a realist means accepting reality over ancient myths. It means accepting what is, what can be demonstrated, what is supported by evidence, and what is true. Not what feels comforting, convenient, or what was shouted at you in Sunday school. It is accepting the beautiful, terrifying, vast reality of the universe without needing to insert a magical explanation for everything we don't yet understand. Realism is the philosophical anchor that keeps us from drifting back into the seas of delusion. And this leads us perfectly to the constant, exhausting misinformation spread by the faithful. So many Christians, whether Protestant, Catholic, or one of those vaguely defined non-denominational groups that seem to spring up everywhere like spiritual weeds, have this delusional idea that atheists are immoral, hateful, illogical, and just generally miserable human beings who secretly want to believe but are too stubborn. Let me be perfectly clear. Atheists simply have a lack of belief in any supernatural being. That's it. It is a cognitive position. It is not an emotion. It is not a motivation. And it certainly does not define your character. When Christians claim atheists are immoral, they are revealing their own deeply flawed morality. They are effectively screaming, "The only reason I don't murder people is because I think a magic man is watching me. Therefore, you must be a savage without that threat." It's insulting, childish, and logically bankrupt. We operate on empathy, reason, and social contract, not fear and divine punishment. Many of us identify as several things I've just listed. Our identity isn't singular. It's a spectrum of rational, ethical stances. So my identity? Toothless Grin Kim? What am I? I am almost every single term I just defined. With one minor clarification, I consider myself a strong atheist. I am pretty much damn sure there are no gods. And I feel the agnostic skeptic qualifier, agnostic or skeptic, whatever you choose to call yourself, I feel the agnostic or skeptic qualifier is redundant in my case. I don't feel like I'm a skeptic or what. My layered identity is atheist, exchristian, anti-theist, secular humanist, and realist. This is the order in which my identity functions. Atheist. The foundation, I simply lack belief. Period. Ex-Christian, this is my history. I know the playbook. I lived the delusion. And that experience informs my perspective. Anti-Theist, this is my activist stance. I believe all religions are fundamentally damaging, and I will actively work to curb their influence. Secular humanist, this is my positive moral framework. I use reason, logic, and empathy, and I strive for the best possible outcome for humanity. I prove every day that you can be profoundly good without doctrine or dogma. Realist, this is the ultimate and final layer to my reality, to my definition of who I am, my identity. A realist. This is the ultimate final layer. I accept reality. I accept truth. And I reject fantasy, ancient myth, and toxic delusion. So when they start calling us immoral, when Christians start calling us immoral or illogical, remember that they are simplifying complex critical thinkers into a boogeyman suitable for their Sunday school lessons. We aren't just one thing. Atheists aren't just one thing. We are many things. We are defined by our quest for truth and our commitment to human well-being, not by an absence of belief. Christians need to stop trying to lump us into one negative thing. Atheists are not hateful. Anti-theists might be hateful of the destructive ideology of religion, but that is a far cry from being hateful of people. So, there you have it. A brief, devastating look at the complexity of the secular identity. We are not just defined by what we don't believe. We are defined by how we seek truth, how we choose to live ethically, and how vehemently we oppose the systems that seek to harm others. The next time some Bible thumper tries to stereotype you, throw these terms back at them. Tell them you're not just an atheist. You're a secular humanist who judges morality based on demonstrable harm, not ancient taboos. So, finally, now, in conclusion, for my wonderful atheist, ex-Christian, and deconstructor family, head down to the comments right now. Tell me, which of these terms best defines the layers of your identity? Are you primarily a realist, or do you lead with anti-theism? And what is the most ridiculous, garbage way a Christian has ever tried to stereotype you for lack of belief? And to our inevitable invaders, the gaslighting grandpas, the proselytizing projectors, the Christian trolls. Welcome to the comments section. Since you clearly don't comprehend a word I said about reason or lack of evidence, I invite you to leave your prepackaged, illogical talking points below. They make for excellent education fodder for the rest of our community. Knock yourselves out! So if this video helped you clarify your own secular identity, hit that like button and subscribe to Secular Strike Back. I'm here fighting the good fight for reason, logic, and reality. And if you live in the United States and you would like to support this podcast, please consider making a $3 monthly donation by going to my Patreon and becoming a member. The link is in the description below. And also, Secular Strike Back has just started up an email newsletter, which you might like to subscribe to. The link to subscribe to the newsletter is also in the description below. Until next time, stay skeptical, stay empathetic, and stay real. Again, this is Secular Strike Back. I'm Toothless Gren Kim. I hope you enjoyed today's podcast. I look forward to the next time we talk, and bye.